The Qantas Chief Executive Alan Joyce will step down as leader today, handing over the reins at the airline 2 months earlier than expected to Vanessa Hudson. Joining me live now is our business reporter Edward Boyd. Ed, this is a shock exit in terms of we knew Miss Joyce was going in November, but this is happening 2 months earlier. He says his resignation will help the company move ahead with its renewal process.
That's what he said in the ASX release that they put out this morning. But really, this year was meant to be Alan Joyce's farewell tour year. That's how it's been described in some newspapers over the last sort of few months. Remember, he announced he was stepping down as chief executive after 15 years. He's been the head of Qantas for 15 years, back at the February profit results. And that's where he said Vanessa Hudson was the new CEO designate and she was going to take over after Qantas's AGM in November. Obviously, there's been a lot of things have happened at Qantas this year, particularly in the last couple of months. Qantas's share price is actually now at its lowest level since October 2022. They've obviously been front page news for the last couple of weeks, in particular around the Qatar Airways issue, along with the recent ACCC launching court action on Friday last week against Qantas as well. So Qantas has had a lot of problems to deal with. Alan Joyce has been the face of the company for 15 years, and I think he may have just had enough and said, now's the time to hand over. So this is what he said just about half an hour ago. He said, in the last few weeks, the focus on Qantas and events of the past make it clear to me that the company needs to move ahead with its renewal as a priority. There's a lot I'm proud of over my 22 years at Qantas, including the past 15 years as CEO. There have been many ups and downs, and there is clearly much work still to be done, especially to make sure we always deliver for our customers. It's also worth noting, Laura, that in the media release they put out today, it also says shareholders will need to vote on Vanessa Hudson becoming chief executive at the upcoming AGM. So she's going to step in without shareholder approval. That is a little bit unusual, but obviously Qantas feel like this is the right time for Alan Joyce to step down and stand aside from leading the airline after so long.
Yeah, right. Okay, so shareholder approval still needs to be required.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's an interesting one.
That's certainly an interesting one because this was announced months ago. We've known of this succession plan for 6 months because she's the current CFO, which it also begs the question about culture, continuity, and whether, you know, the mistakes at Qantas are Alan Joyce's cross to bear alone.
Yeah, well, I have contacted Qantas already, just seeing if Alan Joyce is going to do any present to the media at all today, or Vanessa Hudson, that she takes over officially from midnight tonight. So she'll be the chief executive from the 6th of September. So that is tomorrow morning. So she is going straight into the role. There's also an executive shake-up as well in the lower ranks at Qantas. The new chief, I think there's a new CFO is being promoted. There's a couple of ranks that need to change after Alan's announcement. But yeah, continuity is very important. Obviously, Alan Joyce has been leading Qantas for a long period of time. And it has been, he does say there's been a few ups and downs over that 15 years, but the last few years have been pretty good for Qantas until really the last couple of months where the general Australian public tide seems to be shifting around Qantas's reputation. Yeah,
we have such great affection for Qantas. And when you look at the court case like the ACCC has brought, you feel like your trust in the airline, and I think Australians implicitly trust Qantas, has been shaken. But look, we'll see what happens, and certainly at some stage we'll need to hear from the leadership team, Vanessa Hudson. Anyway, let's look at some other issues across the other side of the country. Unionised Chevron workers have announced further strike action at 2 of the LNG producers' facilities in WA. What's this mean?
Well, this is basically they're announcing they are going to go on strike. So they've already announced strikes commencing on Thursday for 10-hour rolling stoppages for a week. And then just this morning or overnight, the union has announced further strikes starting for next week that will be 24-hour rolling stoppages from next week on the 14th of September for a further 2 weeks. So basically, this is the union putting a lot of pressure on Chevron to try and basically boost their pay. This is what we saw. The same union took this strike action, similar action with Woodside. We saw gas future prices in Europe spike 40% in one day a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Woodside have reached a deal with their members and they're happy they're not going to go on strike. So obviously, this is the union really putting a massive threat towards Chevron. The two projects, massive LNG projects, they supply about 5% of the world's LNG. So they are very large. So basically, it's putting pressure on Chevron to boost wages. And if they do boost wages, obviously, they'll take the strike action away. So it remains to be seen whether it goes ahead, and it would be very serious if it did go ahead, because it will be cutting 5% of the world's LNG out of the market for a short period of time while the strikes are ongoing.
Yeah, right. OK, let's talk RBA. Last decision for Governor Philip Lowe. He's not going to end on a high. He's going to end on a hold.
He's very likely going to end on a hold. That's the expectation, 4.1% for the cash rate today. And then he'll have his speech coming up on Thursday at about 1:10 Eastern Standard Time at the Annika Foundation. So that's where he'll get to say some farewell remarks, some final remarks as Governor of the Reserve Bank. He's obviously led the RBA for 7 years. He wanted his term extended for another 3 years. That didn't happen, and he's handing over to Michelle Bullock, who will take over on the 18th of September. But the board meeting, his last one as leader, will be today, and they'll announce the decision at 2:30 p.m. as usual.
OK, Ed, bit to get through there. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Laura.